Welcome back, everyone. Let's jump right in. Today, we're embarking on a pretty fascinating journey in this explainer. We are going to decode the natural world by exploring the fundamental rules that govern our physical universe. And then we'll transition into the breathtaking complexities of living organisms. Because, whether we're looking at the vastness of space or the literal microscopic machinery inside a single cell, nature follows a remarkably beautiful and consistent set of rules. Let's uncover them together. Looking at our agenda for today, first, we'll decode what science fundamentally is. Then we'll map out the macro rules of physics and how we actually measure reality. After that, we'll zoom into the micro world to explore biology, its specialized branches, and finally, how all of this translates into real-world careers. Let's get to it.
Section 1. Decoding the natural world. Understanding the foundations of science.
Okay, let's dive into this by establishing what the pursuit of science actually means at its core. The word science is essentially the ultimate mystery-solving process. It's all about collecting information through keen observation, representing it mathematically, testing those ideas through really rigorous experimentation, and finally drawing a solid conclusion. And at the root of all this, natural science is physics. Derived from the ancient Greek word physikos, which literally translates to knowledge of nature, physics is widely considered the mother of all sciences. Why? Because it builds the foundational rules for everything else we experience.
Section 2. Physics, matter and energy, the rules of the physical universe.
That brings us right to the physical foundation of our universe, focusing on two main characters here, matter and energy. Because the universe is just so vastly complex, physicists actually organize it all into specific branches to make sense of it. We have mechanics for motion and thermodynamics for heat. We study waves through optics and sound, explore charges with electricity and magnetism, and scale all the way from the microscopic realm of atomic and nuclear physics to the massive celestial objects and planetary structures studied in astrophysics and geophysics. It's like a giant puzzle, and these branches help us put the pieces together. So you might be wondering, how do we actually quantify this reality? Well, we do it through what we call fundamental quantities. These are 7 physical quantities that simply cannot be explained by any other physical quantity. They're the absolute bedrock of measurement. We're talking length, mass, time, electric current, temperature, amount of substance, and luminous intensity. Every single measurement taken by a scientist, an engineer, or even a doctor relies on these 7 fundamental building blocks and their standard international units, like the meter, the kilogram, and the second. Now, what's really fascinating is how we take those fundamental baseline units and combine them to explain more complex phenomena. We call these derived quantities. For example, you just can't measure velocity without dividing length by time, giving us meters per second, right? Force, measured in newtons, or volume, measured in cubic meters, are built directly upon the fundamental ones we just established. It's really a perfect mathematical language.
Section 3. Measuring the physical universe. Precision instruments.
But here's the thing, having a mathematical language isn't quite enough on its own. We have to move from abstract mathematical quantities to the practical art of measurement. Think of a mechanic needing to measure the exact thickness of an engine valve. A standard ruler? That's not going to cut it. They use a vernier caliper, which is this ingenious tool used heavily in engineering to measure internal and external distances extremely accurately. It's actually a pretty cool process. First, you place the object securely between the jaws. Second, you note the main scale reading just before the 0 line of the sliding vernier scale. Third, you find exactly which line on the vernier scale perfectly aligns with a line on the main scale. And finally, you combine those 2 readings. This allows scientists and mechanics to measure down to tiny fractions of a millimeter.
However, and this is absolutely crucial, every physical instrument has its limitations, something called a least count. And tools like the vernier caliper or the micrometer screw gauge have to be calibrated. Before taking any measurement at all, a scientist must check for 0 error. If the jaws are closed and the 0 marks perfectly coincide, great, you have no error. But if the vernier 0 mark sits slightly to the right, you have a positive 0 error, and you actually have to subtract it from your final reading. If it's to the left, it's negative, and you add it. It's this hardcore dedication to rigorous accuracy that makes modern technology possible in the first place.
So, physics gives us the rulebook for matter, energy, and measurement. But that leads us to a pretty profound question. What happens when that matter becomes animated? What happens when it breathes, grows, and reproduces?
Section 4. Biology, the study of life, exploring the living world. This brings us to the second half of our explainer, where we transition from the purely physical world into the biological marvel of the living world. Just like physics, biology draws its roots from ancient Greek. It comes from bios, meaning life, and logos, meaning thought or reasoning. So essentially, it is the logical study of life. Biology provides us with the tools to understand organisms that differ wildly from one another in shape, size, and chemical composition, yet they all share that incredible spark of being alive. But how do we actually define life? It's tougher than you might think to pin down in a single sentence. So biologists identify it through core functions. Basically, if an entity is alive, it's busy. It will exhibit processes like digestion and metabolism for energy. It moves, it grows, it reacts to its environment, which we scientifically call irritability, and crucially, it reproduces. If matter performs these functions, congratulations, it's alive. And this brilliantly illustrates how we start to categorize the living world. At the highest level, biology has major divisions. We have botany, derived from the Greek botane, which creates a mental bucket exclusively for the study of plants. On the flip side, we have zoology, from the Greek zoon, dealing exclusively with animals. These two macro categories have guided scientific thought for centuries.
But there is a third major division, one that stayed totally hidden for most of human history: microbiology. This is the study of microscopic organisms, like bacteria, that are entirely invisible to the naked eye. And think about this. We couldn't even begin to study this division until physicists and engineers perfected the optical lenses required to build microscopes. It all connects.
Section 5. Branches of Biological Sciences. Diving into advanced biological disciplines. As our tools improved, especially during the intense research periods of the 20th century, the broader divisions of biology drilled down into highly specialized branches. A perfect example here is molecular biology, defined by that iconic double helix of DNA. This is the study of the organic molecules that actually constitute a cell and its complex organelles. It's literally where biology and chemistry intersect at the most fundamental level to decode the blueprint of life itself. And the specialization definitely doesn't stop there. It allows us to look at life from every possible angle. We look at the outside with morphology, cut it open to see anatomy, and drill down into microscopic tissues with histology. From understanding function with physiology, to classifying life with taxonomy, all the way to seeing how it reacts to medicine through pharmacology. It's the whole shebang. Section 6. Careers in the biological field. Applying science in society.
So you might be asking, why does all of this matter? We've talked about fundamental physics and specialized biology, but how does this apply to our everyday lives in society? Well, the abstract knowledge we've discussed translates directly into tangible, society-sustaining careers. The study of anatomy, pharmacology, and physiology gives us medicine and surgery to treat disease and repair trauma. Our understanding of zoology and botany empowers farming and animal husbandry, ensuring we can care for and breed animals to sustain human populations. We even have fields like bioeconomics, which actually calculates the cost and profit value of biological production. These aren't just academic subjects. They are quite literally the engines of our society.
When we step back and look at the big picture, it becomes incredibly clear. The pursuit of these natural sciences, from measuring the exact thickness of a wire with a vernier caliper to understanding the metabolic processes of microscopic bacteria, forms the absolute foundation of modern human civilization. It leads directly to our technology, our medicine, and our food security. Which leaves us with a pretty thrilling thought. As our precision instruments get better and better, as we continue to measure the outer edges of the cosmos and decode the deepest secrets of our own DNA, what unknown frontier of nature will science illuminate next? The universe is just full of mysteries waiting for a focused learner to observe, measure, and explain them. Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.